Ahead of the Buffalo Bills practice on Thursday, head coach Sean McDermott delivered an injury update that left the fan base uneasy and stirred up conversations across the NFL community. The main headline revolved around rookie cornerback Maxwell Hairston, the team's highly touted first-round pick, who was expected to become a cornerstone of Buffalo's secondary for years to come. McDermott revealed that Hairston's 21-day practice window had not been opened, effectively leaving his return to the field in doubt. For a young player who arrived in Buffalo with high expectations, particularly given his athleticism, college pedigree, and potential to immediately elevate the defense, the news was concerning. Fans had been hoping to see him integrated into the defensive rotation soon, especially given the challenges the Bills' secondary has faced in recent seasons, but now that timeline remains murky at best. While that piece of news was troubling enough, it was far from the only surprise McDermott had in store. When the official injury report was eventually released later in the day, it contained several names that McDermott had not even mentioned during his pre-practice update. Perhaps the most unexpected inclusion was tight end Dalton Kincaid, a player who has quickly become one of quarterback Josh Allen's most reliable weapons in the passing game. Kincaid was listed as limited in practice due to an oblique injury, a type of issue that can linger and cause problems for players who rely heavily on twisting, cutting, and using their core strength to create separation and secure contested catches. Considering Kincaid's importance to Buffalo's offense, he has developed into a security blanket for Allen, especially on third downs and red zone opportunities. His sudden appearance on the injury list immediately raised red flags for both coaches and fans. But the concerns didn't stop there. Two of Buffalo's safeties, Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin, were also listed as limited participants in practice. Rapp, dealing with a nose injury, and Hamlin, managing a pectoral issue, were both surprise additions to the report. For a team that has prided itself on having depth in the secondary, the sudden piling up of injuries at critical positions adds another layer of stress to a defense that has already had to weather challenges throughout the early stretch of the season. Both players are key rotational pieces, and their availability could heavily influence Buffalo's ability to execute its defensive game plan against the Atlanta Falcons, a team that has shown it can create explosive plays if given the opportunity. The Bills' upcoming matchup against the Falcons on Monday now looms even larger in the context of these injury developments. Atlanta, while not considered among the elite of the NFL, is a team that can punish opponents who are not at full strength. Their young core of offensive playmakers has proven capable of taking advantage of mismatches, and if Buffalo's defense is undermanned, the task becomes even more daunting. McDermott, who is known for his defensive acumen and meticulous preparation, will no doubt be forced to make adjustments if several of his difference-makers cannot suit up at full capacity. Amidst all the worrying updates, there was at least a glimmer of positivity. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver, one of the Bills' most important defensive linemen, returned to practice in a limited capacity. Oliver has been sidelined since Week 1, when he suffered an injury against the Baltimore Ravens, and his absence has been deeply felt. Buffalo's defense has struggled at times to generate consistent interior pressure, and Oliver's return, even on a limited basis, offers hope that he could be working his way back into the rotation sooner rather than later. His explosiveness off the line of scrimmage and ability to collapse the pocket could provide a significant boost to a defense that needs to get back on track. Still, the overall picture painted by the injury report is far from reassuring. Having multiple starters and key contributors limited or unavailable is always troubling, but the situation becomes especially critical when it involves players responsible for protecting Josh Allen or providing him with reliable targets. Offensive lineman Dion Dawkins' name surfacing on the injury report, even in a limited sense, was another source of anxiety for the fan base. The offensive line's ability to keep Allen upright and give him time to operate is one of the most fundamental keys to Buffalo's success. Anytime one of those linemen is banged up, it sends shivers down the spine of Bills Mafia. The offensive injury concerns extended beyond the trenches and Kincaid. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel also popped up on the injury list, dealing with both neck and rib issues. For Samuel, this has become something of a recurring theme since his arrival in Buffalo, as he has battled various injuries while trying to carve out a consistent role in the offense. When healthy, Samuel provides versatility, speed, and the ability to stretch the field horizontally and vertically, creating opportunities for Allen and the rest of the receiving corps. But his inability to stay fully healthy has hampered his impact, and now his status for the Falcons game is another question mark hanging over the team. Fortunately, Buffalo does have depth at the wide receiver position, with players like Stefon Diggs and Khalil Shakir capable of stepping up if Samuel is sidelined. But losing options in the passing game always forces the offense to adjust. This flurry of injury updates leaves the Bills in a precarious situation heading into Week 6. On one hand, there is still time to recover. With the game scheduled for Monday, players have a few additional days to rest, receive treatment, and potentially progress from limited participation to full availability. On the other hand, the sheer number of names appearing on the injury report is alarming. When multiple starters and contributors across offense, defense, and special teams are all dealing with issues at the same time, it becomes a war of attrition that no team wants to fight this early in the season. The timing of these setbacks also could not be worse for Buffalo. Sitting in a competitive AFC landscape, where every game matters in the race for playoff positioning, the Bills cannot afford to drop winnable contests because of attrition. The Falcons are a beatable opponent, but only if Buffalo can field a relatively healthy lineup and avoid critical mistakes. Josh Allen, for his part, has shown resilience in the face of adversity, often putting the team on his shoulders when circumstances demand it. But football is not a one-man sport, and even Allen's extraordinary talent has its limits when too many of his weapons are compromised. For fans, the roller coaster of emotions continues. The promise of a talented roster capable of contending in the AFC has been tempered by a series of injuries that threaten to derail momentum. The hope is that this rash of issues is temporary and that many of the players listed as limited this week will be able to go by Monday night. Yet, the uncertainty lingers, and as every name is added to the report, the collective nerves of Bills Mafia tighten. As the week progresses, all eyes will remain fixed on the team's practice participation reports and McDermott's updates. The Bills still have time to right the ship, but the sheer volume of injury news is far more than what the fan base would like to see at this point in the season. Monday's clash with Atlanta will serve not only as a test of Buffalo's depth and resilience, but also as a measuring stick of whether this team can withstand the adversity of injuries and continue to position itself as a contender in the AFC. Until then, the conversation will revolve around one thing: health. For the Buffalo Bills, getting healthy and staying healthy is now just as important as any play called on the field. If you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.